In 1917, there was a railway company, Pennsylvania Railroad, called PRR in the U.S. This company had a great history in many ways, like having a budget which exceeded the national budget, or incorporating the latest technology of that time. This video shows a story of the locomotive, PRR made and too strong.
Number 1. Too strong locomotive.
After completing the electrification of the Manhattan Islands Railway in 1910, PRR has decided on a new line for next electrification work. That line was through the Allegheny Mountains in the northeast of Appalachian Mountains. The reason why this line was: this line has many tunnels and steep slopes. The method, running an electric locomotive after electrifying lines which have tunnels and passes, has long been used in countries like Switzerland. And PRR followed this, aiming to increase the transportation volume and reduce the cost by running the electric locomotive on mountain lines. Prior to this electrification, PRR manufactured a prototype electric locomotive. What is that locomotive? That is Class FF1. At first glance, it looks like a common locomotive made long ago. But this locomotive had incredible specs just by listening to it. There are 4 1,400 kilowatt level motors per one. Total output is about 5,700 kilowatt. Weight is 234 ton, and the traction force delivered from this weight and the above mentioned output is threading value 63 ton. You may not understand it even if you listen, but you will find it's just as amazing as the strongest locomotive of present day. So far, I have explained the Class FF1. Of course, there were some, many serious problems with this prototype. First, is there anyone who thinks like this?
Even though it is a locomotive that crosses a pass, isn't it overwork?
That idea? You are right. Because of its overpowering output, FF1 had set a crazy record. For example, when FF1 pushed the freight cars, the connected freight cars have derailed one after another due to too much power. Also, when FF1 pulled freight cars, freight car coupler couldn't withstand too much power and the couplers were broken. There was still another problem. The motor that produced the power of this locomotive was powered by three-phase power. Currently, three-phase power has become the mainstream means of moving trains, however at that time, there was almost no way to control it. So how did FF1 control three-phase power? The answer is very easy. There was no control. FF1 has a circuit that changes the wiring of electricity in a simple structure. And by using it, FF1 was switching the speed of the motor. However, since there were only two circuits, it could only travel at 16.6 km per hour and 33.2 km per hour. This slow speed also gets in the way of other trains. FF1 couldn't play an active part at that time. In the first place, this locomotive is a prototype, so it is natural that there is a point that does not go well. I think this locomotive is the only locomotive that has had such interesting results. The train running in the section was then operated by a steam locomotive. A few years later, the next generation of electric locomotives called P5 was produced. But that is another story. Anyway, if you had traveled around here, you might want to remind yourself of this interesting locomotive.